First game preview of the season. Here we go. Bills versus Rams. Super Bowl champion versus what a lot of people think is the best team in the NFL. What could be better, right? Thursday night, let's go. So, format for these previews as we go through the season, right? It's all about the matchups of the players on the field and how they play, what do they do, how do they interact with each other, right? So we're going to go through each offense versus each defense, run game, then pass game, and just talk about what it looks like once they actually start playing. So this is the Bills offense. We're going to go and flip between these pages a lot, so you'll have time to read or look this over. But we have the Bills offense, the Rams defense here. Both of those units have been really good for the last few years, and there's a lot of reasons to expect that will still be the case in 2022. So it'll be really interesting to see how, prospectively, again, two elite units match up with each other. We're going to do this first, starting with the run game, getting that out of the way, obviously being the less important of the two. So can the Bills run the ball? Well, it starts up front with Roger Saffold, Mitch Morse, Greg Van Roten. So two new starters on that Bills offensive line. Two guys that I actually like decently in their own ways. Saffold and Van Roten are both guys who have a little bit of movement skills, can play well in doubles, that type of stuff. However, in this game, we are still dealing with the bad man that is Aaron Donald. And obviously everybody knows or mostly understands how good Aaron Donald and how transcendent he is. But every time you're talking about the Rams defense, you really kind of have to, it's just ever present. You can't speak about what their interactions look like without just pointing out that he's just going to destroy plays just constantly, and that is really important. So while Saffold and Van Roten will stand up, I think, as the season goes on pretty well, in this game we are still talking about real danger there. The Rams do still also have A'Shawn Robinson, a guy I respect a lot, who I think is a really positive run defender, who's probably, frankly, just better than what the Bills are going to throw out there in that aspect of the game. Greg Gaines is a downgrade from Sebastian Joseph Day, but again, big, strong guy who's definitely not a bad player. So the Rams have that stout front three for sure. And I don't expect the Bills to get much push there. Now they're used to that. We'll talk about that. But on the edges, is it much better for the Bills? No. Deion Dawkins, Spencer Brown probably going to start at right tackle. Deion Dawkins, much more, while he's good, is much more of a pass blocker than he is a run blocker. And Spencer Brown, while he was decent as a rookie and as a player, I do find quite a bit of positives with, isn't somebody I'm totally convinced by. And the Rams continue to employ really just tough, stout edge defenders. You know, you can talk about the merits of that, and we'll get to that once we get to the pass rush, but Leonard Floyd is one of the absolute best run edges in the league, and Terrell Lewis, Justin Hollins can very likely combine to at least hold the other one good enough. So I don't think the Bills are really finding much, if any, advantage at the line of scrimmage. On the second level, you know, the Rams bring over Bobby Wagner, still probably the best linebacker in football, or Fred Warner. I mean, he's right up there. And still somebody who limits every aspect of the game for the opposing offense. So it's just tough. Now, the Bills are used to not being able to run the ball. They haven't been for a long time. They don't focus on it. They understand how to play without it, so it's okay. But that doesn't really change here. This Rams defense is really tough in that aspect, and I don't expect much success for the Bills on the ground in this one. But more importantly, of course, is the pass game. So what does that look like? Again, we'll start up front with the pass rush. So is there a pass rush here for the Rams? Obviously, yes, because of Aaron Donald. Again, have to mention it. He's going to kill these interior guys occasionally, and while neither of them are absolute disasters and I think can play, I like Mitch Morse actually as one of the better guys in that matchup. It's not enough, right? Aaron Donald is still going to collapse pockets with some consistency, so that is worrisome. What's more important with the Rams, though, because you know that is always happening, is how do the other pieces fare. They're not so great. The Rams have really lost any semblance of pass rush from the other interior spots. A'Shawn Robinson can create a little bit of push in the pocket, but nothing crazy. And their edge rushers, man. You know, Leonard Floyd does a really good job of containing quarterbacks, playing strong and playing at the level he's supposed to when he's pushing the pocket, but that's really it, unless you're talking about him versus, you know, like bad tackles, which the Bills definitely don't have. And the other edge rusher spot, you know, Terrell Lewis did end up playing a lot more last year after a kind of lost rookie year. Nothing particularly impressive. He's clearly a really big athlete, but at this point, that's still effectively all he is. And Justin Hollins is really not even a pass rusher at all. So that is a problem for sure. So then we talk about the receivers next. So how do these receivers match up with these corners, right? So this is where the Bills kill people. This is why they're so good, why their offense has been so good, whether it's been Robert Woods or Emmanuel Sanders or whoever it is, now Gabe Davis stepping into that role. When you have Stephon Diggs plus other competent to very, very good wide receivers, you kill people. Stephon Diggs is, for my money, easily top 3 receiver in the league, and he will always he's ever present as a option to move the offense up and down the field at explosive rates, and nothing has changed about that going into this year. The dude, he just smokes people off the line of scrimmage. He's constantly open. He wins after the catch. He wins in contested. I don't need to speak that much about how good Stephon Diggs is. I think people know that, but he is really good, and that is really relevant here because the Rams, well, they have good corners, don't have anyone good enough to shut him down. I love Jalen Ramsey, one of the absolute best corners in the game. And he will stick to Stephon Diggs better than almost any other corner was or will. The problem is that it's impossible to really shut him down. And if Jalen Ramsey shadows him, while it nullifies a bit of the Bills' advantages, it doesn't really take it away. It creates more of a tie, and you'll find really, as I've found, that ties generally go to the offense in those types of situations. So how do the other weapons look? Well, this will be interesting for the Bills, right? Because this is going to be a way larger target margin for Gabriel Davis starting this game. And I love that. I've talked about how unbelievably good Gabriel Davis has been for, 2.5 years or whatever, a year and a half. Since his rookie year when he didn't play a ton. The dude is amazing. He finally, he showed it all the time, but got attention on national stage in that Chiefs playoffs game. And the amazing thing about him is he does things the way that the best receivers in the NFL do. The Stephon Diggs, the Robert Woods, the Devontae Adams, as far as getting open. Now, is he at those guys' level? Of course not. That's not what I'm saying, but he is in a really similar vein of a receiver, and that's the most valuable receiver you can have in the NFL. The guy just wins on routes really consistently. He's dangerous after the catch. He has ability to play through contact. Gabriel Davis is amazing, and they also bring in Jamison Crowder. Jamison Crowder is a much more limited, once you get 10, 15 yards down the field. But before you get to that point, he's actually about as similar to Cole Beasley, who this team loses, as you're going to find, which is a huge compliment because Cole Beasley was a big part of this team's success as well, right? Because they were trying out 3-4 receivers who were just going to beat the opposing corner basically every play. And they still have that. James Crowder, not quite as good, but it still exists here. Now, these Rams corners, they are pretty good, right? I already talked. Jalen Ramsey's amazing. They bring back Troy Hill from the Browns. Huge fan of that. They missed him last year. I know they won the Super Bowl. They would have wanted it easier with him. He's not amazing and shut down, but he's good. The problem is their corner depth is not here this year. Well, before they had Darius Williams, who I love a lot, I really, really like. He's gone now. So you're talking about David Longby on the field for the vast majority of this game, probably. And I don't expect that to go well. It's not that he's necessarily a bad player. He's okay, and in a lot of games this year, he'll be fine. But when you're talking about receivers this good, he's probably just not good enough and is the weak spot they're going to attack, right? So that's kind of the scary one here. Now, how do the other weapons look for the Bills? Whatever. I'm not a fan of Dawson Knox. He's not very good, but he runs in a straight line fast, and if he catches the ball, he can do some stuff with it, which is useful enough as the 4th, 5th, 6th receiving option on any given play that he will win. Now, he doesn't have advantages in this game necessarily, but again, once you get to that point in the play, the matchup stuff matters less. It's kind of the same thing with the Bills running backs. They're not very good, but at that point, they do at least offer something. Now, we'll say Bobby Wagner is a huge advantage for the Bills in this respect. He's just way, way better. But shutdown linebackers don't really work the same way as shutdown corners. They're more about the way the quarterback targets the field. Josh Allen, much more prone to using stuff outside the numbers or down the field where Bobby Wagner isn't necessarily going to be. Then we talk about safety play. And this is probably the most relevant thing here as we get to the results that I expect in this game. And the unfortunate truth for the Rams this year and in this game is that their safeties are just fucking slow. Jordan Fuller, while he is a disciplined player, and I do think he functions as a starter in the NFL, his strength is definitely not as a downfield safety threat who can recover to deep balls, right? He's more of a already back there playing downhill, being safe, which is useful and is useful with the Bills, but you do need a level of speed for that. He doesn't really have. Taylor Rapp is probably the slowest safety in the NFL. He's terrifying in this game. And Nick Scott, while I do like as a near line of scrimmage player, kind of a similar story where once you get further and further down the field, I get worried about his coverage ability. So with the Rams likely having 3 safeties on the field a lot in this game, that's going to be a problem because the Bills push the ball down the field with such efficiency into such good players that those safeties, they're just going to be a real problem. How does Josh Allen play? So the next thing is, right, how does a quarterback play into this scheme? Josh Allen, he's not amazing from a clean pocket. He's not a killer, but he's pretty good. He's better than people give him credit for, I think, in that aspect. And while his accuracy can still let him down a little bit, given the weapons that he has, it works out just fine. And outside of Aaron Donald, that is kind of the situation he's going to be in here a lot. The Rams really function on keeping quarterbacks in the pocket. They did this with Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray really, really well, and forcing them into stuff they're uncomfortable with doing. Well, Josh Allen is more uncomfortable likely with that than running and gunslinging and all that type of stuff. He is fine at it. So while it works to a point and it keeps the Bills from being this crazy unbelievable offense, it's not something that keeps him from being effective. So overall, I mean, the pass game, they just have real chance at explosive plays because of the Rams safeties, and they do have enough because of Stephon Diggs and these receivers to create potential drives up and down the field. I do worry about the consistency a little bit because of how good Bobby Wagner is, Aaron Donald, all that type of stuff. And Josh Allen can be a little bit damaging to his own team's offensive consistency at times too still. I'm not worried about it over the course of the game, especially with how good they are in the red zone with him. So I put them at about 21 to 28 points. Then we get to the Rams offense. So first we'll start with the run game here, right? You have a new starter, Coleman Shelton at right guard. You have Joe Noteboom taking over full-time at left tackle. How's that going to go in this game? I don't expect it to go very well. You still have some bad. Brian Allen's still pretty bad. He did play better than I expected him to almost all last year, but he still put stuff on tape that is really scary. And the Bills are just frankly way better as a defensive front than they have been in the entire Sean McDermott era. They bring in DaQuan Jones and Tim Settle, who are two really high-end run-stopping nose tackles. They bring Jordan Phillips back, a player I'm a fan of. He's been hurt for a while, but he's good. They finally rectified the stupid Shaq Lawson trade from a while ago. Greg Rousseau is a good player, especially going into his second year now. The Bills have a pretty damn good defensive front. And as far as the line matchup goes, I think they just pretty much straight up win it. Now, the Rams, these guys aren't bad, right? Rob Havenstein is good enough to create some advantages. David Edwards, Coleman Shelton, I actually like both of them relatively. And plus, with the baseline of how good the Rams run the ball, I think they're not going to get bullied at the line of scrimmage, but it's nothing that they're going to consistently win. And that's worrisome because that's kind of how you have to beat the Bills, right? Because with Matt Milano and Terrell Edmunds fully healthy, those guys work together really, really well, especially into this Rams scheme. Matt Milano is a huge playmaker coming up from linebacker, which is what you need to beat the Rams a lot of times. And he has Terrell Edmunds as the really safe, rangy cleanup guy behind him to make up for if he does do something wrong, or even if he's just, schemed out of position or whatever, or away from the play. And that really limits the upside of this Rams running attack, especially with how good the Bills safeties are in the run game. That's a problem. So overall, while I think the Rams do have a floor because of Sean McVay, I don't expect them to really be able to run the ball with any meaningful consistency. So then that, of course, means they're going to really lean on the pass game. So how does that look? Well, pass rush-wise, again, I'm kind of scared for the Rams. These guys are just individually not all that talented. Outside of Rob Havenstein, who himself has issues with speed rushers. And, I mean, the Bills now have Von Miller trading teams this offseason from the Rams to the Bills, and the dude still wins at a really high level in a lot of different ways, including ways that beats players like Rob Havenstein, and more concerningly, definitely beats guys like Joe Noteboom. So Von Miller probably a big deal in this game, frankly. And Greg Rousseau, Shaq Lawson, those guys are good enough to beat these Rams tackles with some consistency. So you're talking about edge rush. And while on the interior, Ed Oliver, he's just not, a little bit of a spoiler there. Ed Oliver is just not that good. He is at least a little bit of a penetrative defensive tackle, and with the weakness of this Rams interior offensive line at times, there is some stuff there. So you are talking about a relevant pass rush. As far as the receivers go, this bounced back to the positive for the Rams because no Tre'Davious White for the Bills, which means we are starting Dane Jackson, a low-round pick, and Kaiir Elam, a rookie first-rounder. Now, Dane Jackson has played in games before, and he's been pretty good. I actually like him as a player. Kaiir Elam, however, most rookie corners are just not good, especially in their first game. Now, there are exceptions to that. He could be one. Not a great start. You also have Teron Johnson in the slot, who I do think is pretty good, and he's important in this game. But these Rams receivers are still good, right? Allen Robinson comes over. He's a really good player. He's been hampered by injuries and horrible quarterback play his whole career, really, but including the last few years. And on this team, while he can be a little bit limited as far as his speed goes once he gets down the field and like deep crossers and that type of stuff, he's more than good enough to make up for it. And he does function as a driver of offense because he wins so consistently between like 10 and 20 yards, or between 0 and 20 yards, that he really provides a floor here, and he'll beat these Bills corners. Van Jefferson, same thing. Van Jefferson's good, and I'd be really worried about whichever corner of the Bills matches up on him. And then, of course, you have Cooper Kupp, last year's Offensive Player of the Year, basically. You know, the dude, I have my own issues with him as a player, I suppose, but more relevantly in this game, he'll win. Now, he beats up really, really badly on bad slot corners. That's not going to happen here. Teron Johnson's too good for that. But he still wins. He's still going to be open at times. The Rams still run so much offense through him that he visibly does well. He's so good after the catch. Like, the Rams do have options between them, between all these guys. However, the Rams' offense functions a lot differently than the Bills, because the Bills are really outside in as far as attacking wide receiver matchups on the outside, bad corners, that type of stuff. The Rams are more about attacking over the middle with, you know, running backs, tight ends, even receivers, really, too, and creating mismatches in that sense, and then going out, which overall I think is a better way to play offense generally. But in this game, actually creates some issues, right? Because the Bills' interior defense as a passing squad is really good. You still have, you know, one of the best safety, probably the best safety duo in the league. And Matt Milano's a really actually high-end pass defending linebacker, a guy who can stick with even good tight ends. Terrell Edmonds I have, again, issues with, but he's athletic. He is able to play mid-tier zones just fine. And overall, that does limit a lot of what the Rams consistently do. Now, the Rams are good enough to have a floor to still be able to function up and down the field. I'm not going to say that they can't, but I do think their general explosiveness that will still be present throughout the season is a little bit limited here. And while they can hurt these outside corners, the rest of it really, I think, favors the Bills quite a bit. So, you know, overall, I don't love the Rams' offense in this game. I still think they'll be fine. They have a floor with McVay and Stafford. But I think about 18-26 feels right, which means I do think the Bills are going to win this game. They just have a more clear route to scoring, being that they have a big advantage, like I said, with how slow the Rams safeties are and how well they push the ball down the field. I trust that to come to fruition at least, you know, 2-3 times over the course of the game, more than I trust the Rams to really string together these big drives that they're famous for against the really good interior of the Bills, or middle of the Bills defense. So, yeah, I think you're talking about a Bill. So we'll talk about betting real quick. This time I like to talk about a lot too. I think I don't love this game, frankly, as far as betting goes, because the Rams are just good still, and Josh Allen still scares me a little bit with consistency. Plus, Jameson Crowder is a downgrade from like Emmanuel Sanders or Rob Woods that I talked about, so their receiver core is not quite as good as it was. So I think my favorite thing here is under 52.5, because I do expect both these offenses to kind of get mucked up a little bit by the quality of the opposing defenses and not be able to move the ball with a ton of consistency. I don't love it, though, because it is still a first game of the season, early game, indoors, like, you know, national TV. There's a lot of stuff that can point to this being kind of a bit of a track meet, but I'm not. That's more ancillary stuff than actual matchup based, which is why I do still like the under. And then 2.5. I mean, 2.5 point road favorites is tough against the former Super Bowl team. I'd still take it just because I do expect the Bills to win this game, but nothing that I really feel strongly about. So that's my preview for Week 1, this first game, and Hell yeah, this is an awesome one to start with. No doubt about that.